And then the next rule set that changed was providing some clarity around caretaker language. So much of our language has the word individual throughout the rules. And so we were creating more specific titles so that it's clearer when we're talking about a caretaker, if it's the applicant, if it's a child. So those things were changed throughout a variety of rules to add that specificity. Similarly, doesn't have an impact on functionality. It's really about making sure that our rule set is clear about who it's applying to. We also updated some clarity around whether or not fringe benefits can be counted as in-kind income. And the clarity that we provided is that if a fringe benefit cannot be taken as cash in hand, it does not get counted as in-kind income. This already aligns with our current one system functionality. And so this is already something in practice. We're just creating the clarity in our rule set. And then the final piece, it might be the next slide. Thank you. The final rule, probably the one that is the biggest impact, is adding baby promise to our ERDC waitlist exemption. As a reminder, this is being done to align with our other contracted slot program and to ensure that families that are trying to access baby promise can do so, and the waitlist isn't the barrier for them, since ERDC is a requirement for baby promise families. That was adopted as a temporary rule back in October. I'm fairly sure I'm getting that correct. So this would be creating that as a permanent role. You can go ahead forward. So this is just a timeline. And yes, I was remembering correctly. The RAC and the public hearing and public comment period was in October. And then our rules, if voted today and passed, would be effective January 1st, 2025. And that's the conclusion of my presentation, and happy to answer questions if there are any in time.
So Dorothy, did you have much input from the RAC or any other engagement? Are people interested in these technical fixes?
I would say on the technical fixes side, everything but baby promise. A lot of the rack conversation is often clarity, winds up becoming an opportunity to like educate folks on some of the technical aspects. There's just asking questions around like, well, what does that look like in practice? But not any significant comment about changes. With baby promise, the conversation was a little bit more talking about the impact of allowing baby promise over other kinds of populations for bypasses. And so really trying to make sure that folks understand with baby promise, this particular addition was so that the program can be sustained because it is so heavily linked to ERDC eligibility.
And I mean, with the wait list being as huge as it already is, I don't know if there's any really direct impact of adding baby promise to an unsustainable wait list that already exists.
And so adding baby promise as a waitlist exemption means that they'll bypass the waitlist. So they can be determined eligible and be placed in a baby promise spot. And it's about 200 families. I'd have to clarify with Mady just the exact number right now, but it's about 200 families that access baby promise.
Okay. Wow. Okay, questions of Dorothy on ERDC rule changes that are coming up. Okay, thank you, Dorothy, very much. Let's jump back to Marie, if you can remember your comment and question, Marie, now that we have Alicia back. Welcome back, DELC staff. We felt a little abandoned, but now we're glad to have you with us again. So Marie was in the process of asking a question, making a comment.
Yeah, I think, we were referencing the racks, and talking a little bit about feedback. And I know you all had talked about how you outreach directly with providers and you did surveys this time around and a few other ways in which you interfaced with folks. And so I was kind of circling back around to the conversation that began our day as the ELC, which was around a hub director level kind of position on the ELC. And my question around sort of like, what is the goal of maybe having that? And in my mind, it serves as maybe that direct on the ground. The hubs and the CCRNRs are the ones that are interfacing with providers, really on the ground trying to help them. And so I just wondered, when you're doing some of these feedback pieces, are they in that feedback loop for you? I know they're in effect an arm of Delc. Y'all are funding them to do that work. So I just wondered at what level there's opportunity for that engaged conversation of feedback on your proposed changes.
Thanks, Marie. That's a great question. And we did have hub representation on the Rules Advisory Committee. And don't know if Abby is on to speak more specifically about what that looked like, or if there are still technical
Oh
difficulties.
no,
It
I'm
looks like
here.
you're here with us. Oh, great.
So yes, and I believe also we had hub representation in our work group as well. The hubs are listed as when we do recruitment as one of the priority groups that we ensure we have represented. And I believe even the person from the hub also was a former certified family provider. So they were able to give both perspective from the hub itself and then as a provider as well. Um, does that answer your question?
Yeah, and just to
Yeah.
clarify for the council, we ran two separate groups. We ran a community work group to help identify the barriers, in addition to the Rules Advisory Committee, which is really digging into the full language of the rule set.
Okay, thanks, Alicia and Abby. Other questions from council members or comments before I ask Katie to put some motions on the floor?
And Sue, if there's no questions, just do want to know, I know Chris, I'm not sure if you flagged this before I jumped on we do have to repeal and then actually vote to adopt the rules, but that's noted in the motion that we shared with you, Katie.
Okay, so we're just going by what you gave us, right?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. All right, so let's turn to the first motion. Katie, thank you.
This is regarding certified family rule set. I move to repeal the following rules dated December 11th, 2024. Number 414-350-0000 through 414-350-0405.
Okay, so we need to deal with that one separately, right, Chris? Okay, thank you. Any questions about the motion or comments?
No, just that I'll second it.
Oh, thank you, Liz. All right, those in favor, please say aye and or raise your hands. All right, any opposed? No. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next.
Second, under certified family rule set, I move to adopt the proposed rule language amendments dated December 11th, 2024 that adopt Oregon Administrative Rules 414-360-0100 through 414-360-1620.
All right, is there a second for that?
I'll second.
Thank you, Peg. Any discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, passes unanimously. Next, Katie.
Registered family rule set. I move to repeal the following rules dated December 11th, 2024. Numbers 414-205-0000 through 414-205-0170.
There's a second for that.
Second.
Second, Peter, thank you. Any discussion? If not, those in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposed? I don't think you're opposing it. Thank you, Subin. Any abstentions? All right, it passes unanimously. Next
one, registered family rule set. I move to adopt this proposed rule language amendments dated December 11th, 2024 that adopt Oregon Administrative Rules 414-210-0100 through 414-210-1620.
Right. Thank you, Katie. Is there a second for that?
Liz will second.
Thanks, Liz. All right, discussion. Those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. And the final motion.
This is an ERDC motion. I move to adopt the proposed rule language amendments dated December 11th, 2024 that adopt amendments to the Oregon Administrative Rules 414-175-0002, 414-175-0005, 414-175-0010, 414-175-0024, 414-175-0025, 414-175-0035, 414-175-0060, 414-175-0065, and 414-175-0070.
Well done. All right, Katie. You pass on to kindergarten, I'd say.
Yay!
All right, any discussion?
I'll second it.
Oh, thank you, Liz. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your hands. Those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, it passes unanimously. Thank you, Chris, Alicia, Abby, Dorothy. Great work, you guys. I know you've spent untold hours, especially on the certified and registered family rule sets. And I personally appreciate the number of one-on-one calls we've had, Abby, with you explaining these rule changes to me. You've been very patient, and I appreciate that a lot. All right, we're done with rules, but we have Maria and Nancy with us because I wanted them to just give us a quick snapshot of what's coming up for hub rules, and the rapid timeline that everyone is on for this. So I'll turn it over to you guys.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Miller and members of the council. Thank you for having us. My name is Maria Mendoza. I am one of the Early Learning Hub coordinators.
And I'm Nancy Hout. I'm also an Early Learning Hub coordinator. Good to be here.
Next slide, please.
So the purpose of the rule changes are to modernize, clarify, and enhance the framework governing early learning hubs. We want to reflect current practice, legislative mandates, and operational realities, and we're really excited to launch into this process.
Next slide, please. So we're going to be doing a phased approach for the rulemaking, and in phase one, it's really twofold. First, we're going to be clarifying existing rules to strengthen hub infrastructure and governance. And then second, we're going to be introducing new rules to improve administrative processes, accountability, and engagement. And then in phase two, we're going to be developing new rules related to hub operations, fiscal management, and systems coordination, as well as having an opportunity to go back and refine the rules from phase one. Next slide, please.
So in phase one, we're going to start with updating current rules, applicability of rules, definitions, and early learning hub functions. And in addition, we are also going to repeal the Early Learning Kindergarten Readiness Partnership and Innovation KPI and integrate that those rules into the new and revised hub rules so that it will all be under one section.
And the new rules that we would be proposing in phase one would be administration, allowable uses of grant funds, hub governance structure, and data collection and reporting. Next slide, please. And so then in phase 2, we would be touching on one current rule, which would be the selection criteria for hub contracts. And then we would be touching on 6 new rules. So that would be funding early learning hubs, development of a community plan, coordination of eligibility for early learning programs, child care providers support and professional development, monitoring and evaluation, as well as family voice and communication. Next slide, please.
And our tentative timeline looks like this. We'll be coming back to you March 26, 2025. We'll go through the RAC, public hearing, public comment ending the end of May, and then the council will vote on the rules on June 25th, 2025. So phase 1 rules will be effective October 1, 2025. And then phase 2 rules will be effective July 1, 2026. And that's to align with our new grant agreement timeline.
Next slide, please. And so really this revision follows over a year of engagement with partners at the Build Initiative. And that really culminated in our document that is Roles All Hubs Share in the Future. And our work is continuing with Build, which will also inform phase 2 of the rulemaking process. And so we are really trying to be intentional with the work that we have done with Build and really now making sure that that is implemented into our rule set and continues to be that way and also shows up in our grant agreements. I think that's all we have for you.
All right. Thank you, Maria and Nancy, for presenting that to us with really short notice. I know, I think we talked about that on Monday. So Council, I just wanted you to see that this is a very aggressive timeline, as you can see, with the number of new rules that are going to have to be developed. We're very fortunate to have Carrie and Karen at Build staffing with Maria and Nancy this effort because it's going to be an all-out effort. And I know Chris is intimately involved with it as well. So, it's hard to believe hubs are 10 years old, right? And look at the number of rules that are needing to be developed. Most of them new. So it will be exciting. I thank Peter and Liz for being on this sort of hub work group, and Ruby, although she had to leave early. So it's going to be a very busy 6 months coming up. But thank you, Nancy and Maria. We appreciate you a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Council, as always, we are out of time. So a couple of takeaways from today for me, and then for those of you who can stay on a few more minutes, I'd love to hear yours. We're going to form a work group to talk about sort of attendance, I guess, at council meetings. What do we want to do about inviting ex officio members to join us on what schedule and who and all of that? So that work group, I'm hoping, will also talk somewhat about just the structure of the council meetings. I'm guessing you all share my either frustration or disappointment that we didn't have any time to ask agency directors questions. I'm guessing we could have had a 10-minute conversation with every one of them to gain more information and to give them insights into what we're thinking. So I'm not sure how we redo that part of the agenda, but I'm sure interested in thoughts about that. So we will be forming that work group, and we'll be connecting with each of you as we put a schedule together for doing the agenda planning for the months ahead. I appreciate that each of you offered to participate in planning for some of those agendas, and we will definitely be getting in touch with you to set those up. So other comments from anybody as we get ready to close down? Right. Thank you all very much. I appreciate each of you. And Gabby, nice job in the whole translation with Spanish and English and who was on when. That
When
must
you,
quite
Gabby,
a
when you were doing the translation, I took screenshots and sent it to my staff. I was like, this is how we need to do it. And so you nailed it.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I definitely nailed the questions and discussion portion. I don't think the presentation went very well on my end, but you all heard the English version, so that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And Gabby, will you be sure to send us the chat? Because there are a lot of links in the chat and stuff.
Yes, and I do want to note, just because we are still recording, the slides that were just shared on the hub were not included in your packet. I'll make sure that they're included on the website and forward those to you all after the meeting. And I was able to pull the links that were shared when agency directors joined, so I'll include those as well. But I lost access to the chat when the server went down, but thankfully I do have those links, so I will share those out with you all.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you all. Happy holidays, assuming we all survive that long.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Have a good day.
Bye-bye. Oh.